Here's a quick video I wanted to put up on YouTube because I didn't see any other videos on disassembly of these hydraulic transaxles or transmissions. This is out of a Husqvarna. It's a 314-0510, and it wouldn't go into forward. It would go into reverse, but no forward. And all the external linkages looked fine. Everything was, taken apart, checked. Even with it out, it wouldn't go into forward. So since everything seemed pretty good, I drained the oil. As far as everything, I say everything looked good. Everything externally looked good. No leaks, no cracks that I could see. All the seals looked really good. Linkage, everything checked out. So I drained the oil, filled it back with new oil, purged it, tried it again, nothing. So if it gets broken, why not tear into it and see what makes it tick, maybe find out what's going on with it. So again, drain the oil and started tearing it apart. There are the case bolts which come out. There's quite a few of those. Make sure you have all of them out so you're not prying on it and there's still a bolt left. And then there's this stud that goes down in here, and everything comes out. There's just sealant, there's no gasket. So when you go to open it up, be careful because they don't have any pry points. So you kind of have to put something thin in there, start a spot, and then gently work around it till it just pops loose. Obviously make sure you have everything from the outside off so that nothing gets caught. Once you have that done, then you can go ahead and remove the top. Bam. And you can see that's your drive axle that goes in there, which will pull out, so don't drop it. If you're going to take out the drive axles, make sure that you file these edges down around the keyway, because they will get a lip from the wheel moving back and forth. It wears in there, and if you don't do that, they'll get caught and will damage the bearing inside or get stuck, and then you'll be in trouble. So make sure you file them down before you take them out. And then once you get inside, you can start seeing, all your internal parts that they say it's so difficult to work on these, but I've already had it apart. I'm just doing this as a video, and it's really not that difficult. It doesn't seem that bad. You have your gears that come off, fairly easily. They do say obviously make sure that you have a fairly clean environment. Now I'm going to take all these parts out, wash them up really good, make sure they're clean and dry before they go back together. There's not lots, but there's washers that need to go back into place. I try to keep all that together. So just kind of keep your parts together in the order that you took them out. And pretty simple. Locator pins. This is your bypass rod. It's got a magnet. When I took it out, the magnet did have small pieces of metal on it. That's pretty standard. That's why it's there. As long as you don't have big chunks, you should be okay. Check all your teeth. Make sure the teeth aren't worn. There's nothing missing on the teeth. Now, as far as when you get in here, you have, this is where your pump lives, this is where your motor lives. Here's your output shaft from your hydraulic motor, which is in the bottom, and your input shaft, which is where your pulley would be. And that's worked off of the motor through your belt. So basically, and I've had this out already, but it's pretty basic. There's a C-clip that goes on the top of this, that holds it in. Remove the C-clip, and with a little bit of gentle effort, that pulls out. Just be careful. You know, you don't want to damage the bearing if you're not going to replace it. You don't want to damage the splines, you know, on either part of the shaft. You know, just check the bearing, make sure it works well. Put it aside. So here's your swash plate, and when you go forward or reverse, it basically tilts it this way, which is forward on this one, or the opposite way, which is reverse. So your pump and your centerpiece, which just directs the flow through the motor and the pump, aren't actually connected and can be removed separately. So to take that pump loose, you can just go ahead and remove these two bolts on this. There's two bolts here and here. When I originally took it apart, it was pretty difficult because they put red thread locker on there, and so it took a little bit of effort. Just got to be careful. But because I've already had them out, I just take them out with a drill. So with the bolts removed, and the shaft here removed, you can go ahead and take your drive shaft out. This is a drive that comes off the motor and is geared into your differential. Your differential runs off this gear here. Again, keep everything together, put the washers in with the parts. So the bottom of your pump is a filter, and like I said your pump, but this is actually the centerpiece, is your filter. There's your pump, your swash plate. Now to take this out, basically from here it just pulls out, and I say that and it won't come out, but you do have pressure down from this piece here. So with a little bit of it's not actually as difficult as it looks. I'm making it more difficult apparently. It's kind of jammed in there a little bit, but there we go. So your centerpiece comes out. Actually, should be able to take all this out together. There we go. So, like I said, they're not actually connected. There's no bolts or anything. So it looks like that piece came out first. And this is a locator into your case. And that just fits into the case. And that keeps it in place. So, this is your swash plate. I said that when you go forward or backwards, it just moves like that. It pushes down on your pistons inside your pump. Up in the top here, you have races, two races, one here, one inside, right there, and then you have your bearings. Just keep those all together. And out of here came your centerpiece. Came out like this. Here's your filter. It snaps onto the filter base. I already broke these off because they wouldn't compress. The one broke, so I can get this filter base for like $6, and that comes off. So inside here, when you take it apart, it will look a little more like this. Okay, has this piece in here, and this is your bypass. When you actuate the rod, or you like pull the lever so you can push it, this is what actuates the bypass so you can push it. With the rod pulled, this puts pressure down on this piece from the outside and covers up your bypass valves. So what we found was, when I took this apart, we looked at everything else, everything looked good, no visible damage. Took this apart, you can actually see in here that this wasn't seated. This one is all the way down, and you can see it's torqued down, I'm sure, all the way to the plate. Well, this one wasn't. It had come loose, it just moves in there. And so that was keeping these plates from hitting the check balls inside, which releases the pressure. So basically that was the whole problem with this, is one of these obviously somehow either forward or reverse, you know, it just wasn't going to forward. So maybe one of these is forward, one of these is reverse. I'm not exactly sure on the operation of it, but with that up, it wasn't allowing that check ball inside to be pushed down and allowing the pressure to be released, so it wasn't flowing through your pump and your motor. So that's easy. So we'll get a new seal. There's a seal underneath here, and that was damaged, probably just, you know, from whatever, from coming loose and vibrating. We'll put a new seal underneath there, put the spring, put this back on there. I'm going to get a new filter base because I had to cut the little snaps off that hold the filter on. The filter is pretty expensive compared to this, so I opted to damage this to get it off instead of the filter. The filter's, I don't know, it looked like 35 bucks. This was like $5-6. So take these off, we'll put a new base on there, and that's that. That should fix it. We didn't see any other problems. Now down in the bottom, down here is your motor. Your motor looks exactly like the hydraulic pump. Actually looks like a cylinder on a gun, right? So basically your shaft that we took out earlier, that had your drive gear, goes through your centerpiece and shaft and splines into that. So when the motor turns, this turns this shaft, which in turn drives your differential gear. So we got this out. So if you look down in there, you see that there is, these fall out because there's nothing holding them in. This is your pistons and the spring. So the spring just goes in and your piston goes in there, and you know, each one has a piston. So just make sure that you're putting them in the way they came out. So there's a on these springs, there's a fat part where it widens out, that seats down in there, and then these pistons just go on top. Like I said, it's not as difficult as they make it sound. They make these things sound like they're, you know, overly complicated. I'm not a rocket scientist, but you know, I've been, you know, turning wrenches for a few years, but I don't see why anybody couldn't do this with, you know, just being cautious. So down in the bottom where the motor sits, again, you have a race. You have a thinner race and a thicker race. The thicker race goes towards the motor. And it just basically sits. This is at an angle down in here like this. It's not flat. It sits at an angle, which is how your motor works. It's, you know, look it up. I'm not going to explain that right now, but so check everything. Make sure there's no gouging, no metal, no worn parts. These look really good. It was always lubricated, and put those back in there for now. And that's basically it. I mean, it's really not, like I said, it's not rocket science. You know, when you take all your gears out, you want to look at them, make sure there's no serious wear, there's no teeth broken. You know, look at your shafts, make sure they're not feeling, make sure there's no lines where the gear had worn into the shaft, or vice versa. You know, there shouldn't be a whole lot of slop on these. When you try to move them, it should be fairly tight. You know, that goes for all your gears. So all you want to do is just check them and make sure there's no broken teeth, no real wear. Same thing on your splines. When you look at the splines, are they broken? Do they look like, you know, they're worn off? If not, clean them up real good and they'll go back in just fine, just fine. So that's the basics of it. I mean, you know, as far as tearing it apart and looking at the parts and just, you know, most of it's visual. I don't have any specs for anything here other than maybe some torque values on this case bolt, but you know, it looked good. So we're pretty sure, and I don't see why it wouldn't be, that this was causing it not to go into forward. Again, it wasn't allowing these little tabs here to push that check ball and release the pressure. It just bypasses the pressure in there. When you take these out, there's a check ball inside that keeps the pressure inside the pump while it's running. Because there's no separate areas on this transmission for your pump and your differential. They're not separated with different oils. They use the same oil on this. It's a 20 weight 50. It's what Hydro Gear recommends. That, you know, just dump it in and it lubricates and acts as a hydraulic oil all in one. I don't know how well you see this, but inside there's a ball. And so when you press the bypass lever, you pull it out to push it, this little tab will go inside and push that ball back, allowing the pressure to be relieved inside the pump. And that way you can push it. When you put it back in, the lever back in, it comes up and seals that off. The pressure will again push against that, pushing that ball out, not allowing the fluid to flow out. So like I said, I could have went and got another transmission. New one cost me, I don't know, $500. A used one, which, you know, probably I've seen them for about $250 up to like $300. But this is a simple fix. I'm going to put new seals in it, which is like really basic, and Hydro Gear actually has videos showing how to replace these seals. It's too easy. It's too, you know, really is too basic. So you can check those out. I'm going to put new ones in there because every time you take them out, more than likely they're going to be damaged. You know, for what it costs, put new seals in there so it doesn't leak. There's no reason to take this apart, spend all that time, then now to put new seal in there and have it leak out. You're just wasting your time. So that's it. And then everything get cleaned up, lubed up, and put back in. And when I get it put back together, we're going to make another video. So that's it. Hopefully that helps. And you know, so people, you know, aren't as leery about taking these apart as, you know, they make it sound so difficult. Watch out, be careful. But on this one, all the check balls, all the check valves, the balls are all sealed. So you can't lose them. I mean, they're not going to pop out on you. So hopefully, you know, this will help some people understand it a little bit better and not be so scared of taking it apart, I guess. You just need to keep all of your assemblies together. I mean, that's the main thing, is, you know, when you take everything apart, you know, make sure that your pieces are together and you don't lose them. My favorite way of keeping stuff together, baggies. You know, you take a marker, You write on there what it is. Take the assembly, you put it in the bag. Can't lose them. Everything stays together. Little springs, you know, and this stuff, just mark what it goes to, you put them in there. And then when you're ready to put it back together, everything's there. So, again, good luck if you attempt this. I don't have any technical background on these, so any questions that you have, you'll have to, you know, basically you're gonna have to look it up somewhere else. This is just my first time doing it, and like I said, I'm glad I did, because it was pretty basic. One last thing, again, there's no gasket that goes in here. This is like a, looks like a black RTV, some sort of silicone. You know, when you clean these off, you have to be real careful, because this is just an aluminum case. You know, if you get a metal scraper and you start scraping away at this, you're going to gouge, nick this metal and possibly create a place that's going to be a lot more susceptible to leaks. There are other ways to do it. Check that out. There are discs that you can put on like an angle grinder that are really fine. You can just touch it up, touch it real quick, you know, around, and it'll take a lot of that off. Some of it might have to be done by hand, maybe with like a light Scotch-Brite pad. And then when you get ready to put the silicone on, clean it well. Use some sort of something that degreases, that's going to break down those oils. Because if you go to put that silicone RTV on that case and you haven't cleaned it spick and span, where you can take a nice clean rag and there's absolutely nothing on that rag, you know, your silicone isn't going to hold very well. So silicone it, put your case on, make sure you stagger your bolts when you put them on, you're torquing them down. Don't go, you know, around like that. It's more, you know, you're better off going in a pattern, a star pattern. I don't know if there is any information on that for this particular transmission, but you know, that's pretty common. You know, hand tighten them down, you know, in a varied pattern, then about halfway of the torque you need in that same pattern, and then a final torque on them in the same pattern. That way it squishes all the silicone evenly, and again, you'll have a lot less likely chance of creating any kind of gaps. So that way you should be good to go. Again, folks, replace the seals. Like I said, these seals, you know, some of them can be almost, the one was $18. But for the chance of having it leak after you tear it apart, you do all the work, you're nice and clean, you get it going, it's working, and then it starts leaking, you know, for what it costs, man, just replace them. It's so simple to do on these. Like I said, Hydrogear has great videos that they put out on how to do this, but you know, it's pretty basic. Even with the shaft in there, you know, the seals are just held in with clips, you know, and so you get your C-clip removers, depress them, squeeze them, take them out, you know, pry the seal out, put the new one in. You know, they don't lubricate it on their video, but I would take some oil and just lubricate it, and just make sure, you know, that you know, you're putting plastic over the shaft, so that it doesn't damage the seal, just like they show on their video. And that's it, folks. So I'm done for the day. I'm gonna get my parts ordered and get this thing back running in the next week or so. Good luck and take care. We'll see you another time. You know, one thing I wanted to add to this video was that I built a little stand for this, because the best way to take these apart is like this. If you try to take it apart with it laying down, it's going to be a lot more trouble. You're going to have parts that are going to want to fall out. You're going to have washers that fall down, and you maybe not know where they go. So I built a little stand. It's really basic. You know, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It's just keeping it standing up. I just took some boards here and ran a bolt through the other side of this. and nutted it up through the holes that already exist on there, the mounting holes on the transmission. So I, just bolted that through those holes, screwed this board into the end of this. The case sits on that board there, and that just, kind of keeps it steady. And I put this leg over here just to keep it, keep it from falling down, basically. Just nailed that into that board. Nail it, screw it, bolt it, doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be pretty, just has to be functional. And that's going to make it a lot easier when you're working on it. You're not trying to hold the case and pull parts out. You're not having it laying down and parts falling out, or remaining oil leaking out all over to your workbench. When I pulled it apart, just to help keep it a little bit cleaner down there, I just put this down. If I need to lay it down, put it on the towel. That way any fluid leaks onto the towel and keeps your workbench. It's just a temporary workbench. I put this plywood down to do this, and it just keeps everything a little bit cleaner and less cleanup, which is always nice. And like I said, when I put it together, there'll be another video. So hopefully we can get it running the next week or so. And we'll talk to you later.